I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will, again, march into this office with all of the individuals who stand by my side, all 800 attorneys, again, defending the Constitution, defending the rule of law, and standing up for New Yorkers and all individuals who believe in our system of government.
And this case has been dead for years. They've tried to resurrect it. It continues to be dead.
My message is clear. Don't harm my city. Don't harm my state. Otherwise, you've got to go through me. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia, but prior to that, I had indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be.
Congratulations to President Trump's U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan. She is the one who brought and won the indictment against James Comey, and now she just brought and won an indictment against Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General.
The Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General have been hesitant to bring charges against James because of the information that they had heard from Eric Siebert, who was at that time the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. So he's since left that post. Halligan, of course, appointed by President Trump to be that handpicked U.S. Attorney in that district. And we are told Halligan did not coordinate with the Department of Justice on this. That is why these officials, including the Attorney General herself, were caught off guard. Now, it had seemed to be relayed at some point to these top officials that Halligan would be pursuing the case, but no actual details were exchanged between Halligan or the Department of Justice main branch on when it was going to happen. So when this announcement came, when Halligan actually secured this indictment against James, it was news to the top DOJ officials. Of course, as we know, Halligan had brought the case against former FBI Director James Comey. We also know that she had really been tasked with bringing these cases against his political rivals. So the fact that she didn't coordinate is very stunning. This is usually something with a case this big, particularly when there's a close affiliation with the White House and what we've heard from President Trump. The fact that they didn't coordinate is really something, Pamela.
If it had anything to do with that Truth Social post where President Trump called on Pam Bondi to prosecute Letitia James, Adam Schiff, and James Comey.
Yeah, and obviously, as we've been reporting today, that was intended to be a private message to the Attorney General. But I do also want to remind you of something that my colleague Evan Perez and I reported after James Comey had been indicted, which was that Lindsay Halligan and the team there on the ground did not have support or help from the Department of Justice for that case either, that Halligan had been briefed. She had never even presented in front of a grand jury before, and instead she was briefed and prepared by agents and officials, attorneys at the FBI, not the Department of Justice, before she actually went before the grand jury. This time I am told that she was not prepared. She didn't work in terms of by the FBI. She didn't work with the FBI or the Department of Justice before presenting that case and then securing that indictment.
I mean, I think Ed Martin and Lindsay Halligan are showing how this new Justice Department works. They have direct relationships with the president. They can pick up the phone and talk to the president anytime they want. In previous Justice Departments, including in the first Trump administration, there was a separation that only the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, very limited ways that they could communicate with the White House. That norm has been shattered, and everyone is basically like, we don't care what your norms are. This is how it's done now, and we don't really care what people's perception of it is. They're going to go forward.
Congratulations to President Trump's U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan. She is the one who brought and won the indictment against James Comey, and now she just brought and won an indictment against Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General, who tried to bankrupt President Trump for non-fraud. Remember this. Let's remind your listeners, your viewers, what happened there. They went after Tish James with Judge Arthur Engeron, this goofball Democrat judge in New York, tried to bankrupt President Trump with a $400 million judgment because Judge Engeron with Big Tish James said that President Trump somehow committed bank fraud with sophisticated Wall Street banks that he paid back on time, as agreed, in full with interest. They say that these sophisticated Wall Street banks somehow got duped on the valuation of Mar-a-Lago. And they said that President Trump overvaluated Mar-a-Lago when he said it was around $750 million. Instead, they said that Mar-a-Lago was worth only $18 million. It's 20 acres of land in Palm Beach, Florida, that touches both the Atlantic Ocean and the intracoastal waterway. A tennis court at Mar-a-Lago is worth more than $18 million. But even though Trump paid back the banks on time, as agreed, in full, with interest, Big Tish James and Judge Goofball Arthur Engeron socked Trump with a $400 million judgment and tried to foreclose on the properties, tried to enforce the judgment to bankrupt Trump, because who has $400 million in cash laying around, right? And so fast forward to today, the New York appellate courts have put a stop to that nonsense in New York, largely because Big Tish and Arthur Engeron are such whack jobs. Now, fast forward today, we have learned a grand jury has agreed and indicted Big Tish that she lied on her mortgage application for her second home in Richmond, Virginia. Her mortgage, she got a mortgage on an investment property, and she said it was her primary residence. And she got a lower interest rate on that because she lied and said it was her primary residence. Well, here's the problem. She's the New York Attorney General. By statute in New York, her primary residence has to be in New York. So she's either defrauding New York by living in Virginia, or she's defrauding Virginia by living in New York, right? It's one or the other. Well, the grand jury just decided today she's defrauding Virginia by claiming Virginia is her primary residence, and she got charged with mortgage fraud. I think it's like up to 30 years in prison for each count. I think it's up to $1 million in fines and restitution on top of that. So I think Big Tish is in big trouble now in the Eastern District of Virginia federal court. Now, let me make this last point, Steve. This isn't some right-wing grand jury. This is in the Eastern District of Virginia in Alexandria, the Alexandria division. I worked there many years ago. This is loaded up with Democrats, government workers, and illegal immigrants. That's the Eastern District of Virginia. So it seems like it's a pretty strong case by U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, President Trump's all-star U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. Justice is sometimes slow, but justice is definitely being delivered here. And I love that all these people on your cold open, all these people on MSNBC, that there's no evidence here, there's not a case. How the hell would they know? The grand jury proceedings are secret. How they have no idea what Lindsay Halligan presented to the grand jury. And obviously, this grand jury thought that there was probable cause to move forward with federal indictments, a federal indictment, because the grand jury returned a true bill on this indictment. So I think these MSNBC people are it's a bit of wishful thinking on their part, and it's amazing how they've totally changed their tune on this, because I remember when Democrats were indicting Trump and his top aides like you and Peter Navarro, or at least charging you and Peter Navarro and Jeff Clark and his supporters on January 6th and going after parents and Christians. They always said that if there's a grand jury indictment, if there are charges, it's obviously legitimate. So by their same standard, obviously this is legitimate. I mean, look, it's pretty clear cut. Did she say on her mortgage application that her primary residence was Virginia? And if she did, that's a clear cut case of mortgage fraud.
The left is so convinced, though, on such like a deeply disturbed level, it's like a mental disorder, that there's some moral arbiter and that anything they do is therefore righteous. They may be that far off. Norm Eisen, he's another one of these, saying that Trump is hijacking the DOJ in retaliation? Norm, you can't hijack your own government. You see, I don't know if you passed civics class, but the DOJ is part of the executive branch, which is representative of the agenda of the president within the law. And the president has been very clear on the rule of law, which is what this is about. And according to the defendant, Ms. James, her tweet, no one's above the law. You want to know how I know this isn't political, though? If this was political, like the last administration was, they would have kicked in Comey's door and perp walked him first thing in the morning, like they did to Roger Stone. Like, why did they raid Letitia James's house? Because it wasn't political. Why did none of those people get mugshots or have media tipped off about their indictments ahead of time, like Democrats did? If this was political and all for show and retribution, he'd be hauling you off in jail bracelets, not asking you politely to show up at your indictment like they did for James Comey. They gave him like a 2-week window. Some of the worst Trump critics who screamed about prosecuting him did some of the worst things themselves, like the former 51 Intel officials who lied about the Hunter Biden laptop being Russian disinformation. They knew darn well that was BS. The January 6th committee that just happened to delete all the evidence. Right, okay. Leaked Supreme Court decisions that led to threats against sitting Supreme Court justices to try to reverse the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And don't forget about Adam Shifty Schiff. That guy is under investigation for doing the exact same thing as Letitia James, with documents showing that his primary residence was at 2 places at the same time. What do you want to bet that indictment's coming down to soon? That'd be pretty neat. And this might go all the way to the top because, I mean, it's just, this is what Dick Durbin said, but no one is above the law, not even a former president.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.